look at this. Maybe I can see what solar energy is like in the future.
Hi! Welcome to the future. We've been expecting you. Over the past 100 years, there has been a large increase in solar energy. While solar energy has always been an inexpensive, long-term, renewable energy source, the improvement of the PV cells that has caused the price to drop even more. In 2016, photovoltaic cells were made of special materials called semiconductors such as silicon. Basically, when light strikes a cell, a certain portion of it is absorbed within the semiconductor material. This means that the energy of the absorbed light is transferred to the semiconductor. The energy knocks electrons loose, allowing them to flow freely. Perovskite is a natural material that is part of exciting new future for PV cells. Although it does not replace crystalline silicone completely, perovskite can be attached to the pre-existing silicone to increase its efficiency and conducting power.
Well, it looks like a lot more people are using solar energy too, so that means that the price must have dropped due to increasing consumers.
That's correct. Solar energy has always had many benefits. However, there are some drawbacks.
Oh, I know these. I did research on this for my project. First of all, there is an expensive initial cost for solar panels. However, energy supply is completely free afterwards, and they last for 30 to 40 years. Who knows how long they last now? Another benefit is that it gives the United States foreign independence because they have to trade less for crude oil and petroleum from other countries. However, the primary disadvantage of solar panels is that it obviously cannot be created during the night. The power generated is also reduced during times of cloud cover, although energy is still produced on a cloudy day. Solar panel energy output is maximized when the panel is directly facing the sun. This means that panels in the fixed location will see a reduced energy production when the sun is not at an optimal angle. Many large-scale solar farms combat this problem by having the panels on towers that can track the sun to keep the panel at optimal angles throughout the day. Even today's, 100 years ago, the most efficient solar cells only converted just over 20% of the sun's rays to electricity.
Wow, solar panels really have improved since your time. As you said before, the price of solar panels has decreased by a lot. It's common for homes and businesses to be powered by solar panels, so the increase in sales has lowered the price to something more affordable for families and businesses. Solar panels are now able to convert sunlight to energy much faster, and utility grids hold more energy so you can use more power at night. They last much longer here too. They can last up to a lifetime. The United States saved a lot of money from solar power because we barely need to trade for cool oil or petroleum anymore.
Well, when I was doing research for my project, I also learned about how narwhals were affected by ocean acidification. Has solar energy resolved that?
Why, of course it has. Can you tell me more about what narwhals were like in your time?
Narwhals are found in the Arctic coastal waters and rivers. They winter in deep water beneath ice packs in groups. In summer, they migrate to shallow, ice-free summer grounds where they congregate in larger groups. They travel in groups or pods of 4 to 20, and the pods often swim together, forming larger groups. Narwhals spend their lives in the Arctic waters of Canada, Greenland, Norway, and Russia. Only about a total of 45,000 to 50,000 narwhals exist today. The only morphological feature of a narwhal is its tusks. The male tusks are usually longer and have a wide variation in ridge morphology, often appearing gently wave-like when looking down at the horizontal axis. Female tusks are shorter, straighter, have a more regularly defined morphology, and do not collect as much algae on the surface, thus appearing whiter. The tusk is hollowed during early growth and calcifies with age. An average male tusk weighs 10 grams or 22 pounds. About 1 in 500 males have 2 tusks. Narwhals do not have teeth, which is why they feed on a smaller prey. The tusk is technically a tooth that spirals straight out of their mouth. While the tusk can be used for fighting for mates, researchers have also found that it is used as an ice pick, and some have found that it is used as a sensory organ. Other than the narwhal's tusk, it does not have any other morphological features. At the bottom of any food web, you will find the decomposers. The main decomposer in the Arctic food web is algae. Another name for decomposers is a primary producer. Primary producers are mostly plants and produce their own food from abiotic aspects in their environment. The next level is called primary consumers. The two primary consumers in this Arctic food web are plankton and shrimp. All primary consumers are herbivores, which means they eat plants, or more specifically, in this case of the Arctic, algae. The next level is secondary consumers, and in this food web contains the Arctic cod and Chinook salmon. The Arctic cod, Chinook salmon, and all other secondary consumers are considered omnivores. Omnivores eat herbivores and producers. The next level of the food web is the tertiary consumers, and they eat omnivores, herbivores, and sometimes producers. The narwhal is a tertiary consumer in this food web, as well as the seal and the squid. The next levels are primary and secondary predators. The primary predators feed on everything below them in the food web, and the same for secondary predators. The walrus is the primary predator on this food web, and the secondary predators are the polar bear and the killer whale. Humans are at the top of this food web because they are one of the main predators for narwhals and other Arctic creatures, as they are also causing their endangerment. Ocean acidification refers to a reduction in the pH of the ocean over an extended period of time, caused primarily by the uptake of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. The concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has increased due to the burning of fossil fuels. The ocean absorbs about 30% of the CO2 that is released into the atmosphere, and as levels of atmospheric CO2 increase, so do the levels in the ocean. When CO2 is absorbed by seawater, a series of chemical reactions occur, resulting in an increased concentration of hydrogen ions. This increase causes the seawater to become more acidic and causes carbonate ions to be relatively less abundant. Carbonate ions are an important building block of structures such as seashells and coral skeletons. Decreases in carbonate ions can make building and maintaining shells and other calcium carbonate structures difficult for calcifying organisms such as oysters, clams, sea urchins, shallow water corals, deep sea corals, and plankton. The narwhal's food are highly affected by the water acidification because they feed on small fish and shellfish, which are affected because of the lack of nitrogen which they use for shell making. Since these types of organisms are at the bottom of the food chain, everything above it gets affected. The food web in the Arctic Ocean is sensitive, so a significant increase in the population of one species or the disappearance of another could have dramatic ripple effects on the entire Arctic marine ecosystem.
All of this is true for 2016, and if we didn't find a good solution for it, the narwhal population most likely would have decreased to extinction. However, solar energy has allowed for a decrease in CO2 emissions, which lessen the acidity of the ocean. About 2/3 of the world's population has begun to use solar energy. CO2 emissions are caused by burning fossil fuels, and solar energy prevents that. Solar energy only uses sunlight to power all of their energy and does not include any burning of fossil fuels. This has caused the Earth to become cleaner, and the ocean acidification of the narwhal's habitat has decreased, so the Arctic food web is once again thriving.
Well, Laura, I sure have learned a lot about how solar energy can decrease CO2 emissions and even help the narwhals in return. However, I better get back to 2016 before anyone notices that I was gone. And when I get back, the whole world will be using solar energy before you know it. Hello, everybody. I have returned from quite an adventure, and I have something very important to tell you. I promise you that if you start using solar energy today, this world would be a better place. The narwhals' lives are being threatened by CO2 emissions that are causing an increase of ocean acidification. It may not be able to tell you everything I saw in my adventure, but I promise you that if you listen to me, you won't regret it if you care about the environment.